Welcome to Make Shit Happen, episode number 14. Today our guest is Wade Smith. Wade, thank you for coming over here.
Sam, I appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you so much. I know you're a big NFL guy and an ambassador of Houston Texans now.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, coming over here and taking the trip. You live close by over here, huh?
Yeah, about 20 minutes down the road, man. Not too far at all, man. It's a good area over here. Like I see, you got this nice setup here, exclusive, man. You gotta love it, man. I'm looking forward to the tour of the spot.
I was with last week. I met you at your the elementary school where you read to the kids. Tell me, I know you started a foundation, and the name of the foundation is, what is it? Can you tell us?
It's the Wade Smith Foundation.
Wade Smith Foundation,
Yeah.
And it's about the literacy and the childhood reading. So tell me why did you start that, and what made you start that?
Well, two things. Ever since I made it to the NFL, there was a lot of people that helped me get to where I was able to get in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that once I made it, I wanted to make sure that I paid that forward and paid that back to those people as a thank you. Like, hey, thank you for allowing me to get to where I'm at now. Now I'm going to do the same for the people coming after me. Mm-hmm. And so throughout my career, I kind of hopped around place to place, and I would do little community service events with whatever team I was on. Mm-hmm. But once I signed my contract here in Houston, I knew I was like, all right, now I have the opportunity and the money behind it in order to actually give back in the way I wanted to. And the way I wanted to was to give back doing something that I'm passionate about myself, which was reading. And ever since I was a little kid, I loved reading books. And so just being able to share that passion for reading with our youth coming up is something I really wanted to do. And so I started the Wade Smith Foundation, and two of our major programs is Reading with the Pros and our Smitty Scholarship Program. And so the Reading with the Pros that's the event that you've gone to a couple of times, where we go to elementary schools throughout the city and talk to kids about the importance of reading and how it opens their mind and so many different opportunities. And it's such a foundational piece for them to eventually become successes in life. And so we've been doing that since 2012, and we've gone to over 60, 70 elementary schools and reached over 40, 50,000 kids here in Houston and Dallas, where I'm from. And so I really enjoy it myself, and you get a lot of great feedback from teachers and students alike. It's really cool because sometimes I might just be walking around minding my business, and somebody will come up to me, Mr. Wade, you came to my school, and I read like 10 books this summer, and our teachers that eventually became principals said, hey, I need you to come to my new school because your program does amazing things. These kids really buy into what you're telling them, and so it affects them in a positive way. And so the kids that I go to see, they're Title I school kids, and so that means that there's already a discrepancy in their economic backgrounds and their opportunities in life. And so I just try to bridge that gap with myself and the volunteers, readers like you, that come, just different professionals of all different fields, talking to kids about the importance of reading and how it can be the ultimate equalizer. It doesn't matter what type of background you have and what opportunities you might not have. If you open up books, if you read books, and you use that, you get your creative juices flowing, you can level the playing field against anybody that you're going to compete with. And this is America, and so this is a country that's all about competition. And so I'm all about giving kids that otherwise might not get a chance, giving them a chance. Competition
and opportunity, huh?
Yeah.
Land of opportunity. So, and I've been over there twice, this Reading with the Pros, and the kids get so excited.
Yeah.
And they're pumped up, and, it can really create a lasting impression in a kid's life that they saw somebody over there, somebody took the time. And, one of my friends once said, time is more valuable than money. You can give somebody money and they can appreciate it for a little bit, but the time, when you give somebody the time out of your life, it's more valuable than anything. So, my hat's off to you. You give a lot of time to these kids, reading these books and stuff. So, are you a big reader?
I am a big reader. Yeah. Luckily, unluckily, I don't get to read as much as I would like because I'm always doing stuff.
Uh-huh.
But now most of the reading I do is like preparation for different shows I have going on or for appearances. I read for those reasons. But as far as just reading on my own and being able to read the books that I like to read all the time, I don't really get a chance to do it that much because since I've retired from the NFL, I've become extremely busy. There's always something going on. There's things that I would like to do. Mm-hmm. And so I have the ability to kind of dictate what I do day in and day out. And so I choose to do them. And so, big reader. I love John Grisham books. big fan of his. Because he's the type of guy that a lot of his books have to do with law and crime and different dramas. A Time to Kill and just books like that. And so I enjoy reading those type of books when I get a chance. I just don't get to read them as much as I would like. The Pelican Briefs, just stuff like that.
You know, when I was at one of your Reading with the Pros, you said that when you were young, you liked to read those books because it took you to a place with your imagination.
Yeah.
You said you read these books with, the mysteries and John Grisham and stuff. Do you still go back to places or do you go to places reading?
Well, yeah, man. Like I love reading like Game of Thrones, and so Game of Thrones, the books are better than the actual show, and the show is a great show. But it's an ultimate, a book or stories that open your mind, get your creative juices going, uses your imagination. Anytime, if you can go through life each and every day learning something, or allowing yourself or taking in some information that caused you to spark you to have an idea, then it was a productive day. And so reading stuff like that, I mean, it's enjoyable, but also it gets those creative juices going. It gets you thinking about thinking outside of the box. I think there's a lot of people that go through life kind of on a set schedule of this is what I do. I go A to B to C, but normal gets you nowhere. And so I'm a big fan of reading and just allowing your brain to access information so that you can come up with ideas that people haven't thought of and change someone's life in the process.
So if someone is listening to a show and they got kids or nephews or nieces or grandkids and they're listening to it, what kind of message will you give them about reading it? They might be a bad reader like me. I'm a terrible reader. Sometimes I'm reading and my mind wanders at a lot of places. So what kind of message, with you being such a big advocate of reading, what kind of message will you have for people, to read to their kids or the nieces or the nephew or the grandkids? Why is it so important?
Well, I'll say this. First of all, you want to have your kids read things that they enjoy. So there's something that your kids enjoy. Like your kids might enjoy sports. They might enjoy cars. They might enjoy shoes. They might enjoy superheroes, whatever it may be. If there's something that they like to do or love to do that has nothing to do with reading, have them read books about that thing that they really love and care about. Because if you're reading about something you truly enjoy, you don't look at it as a chore. You look at it as like, oh, I'm learning something about something I really care about and enjoy. So I tell kids all the time when I'm going to school with them, like, listen, read about stuff that you like. Because what it does is it gives you practice and it helps you so that when you go to school and you have to read things that might not interest you or things you might not like, you're getting all this practice on your own time that's going to get you prepared to get through some of those things in school that might be a little bit more difficult for you because it doesn't hold your attention.
And reading is so important because you can use that. You use that throughout your life.
Yeah.
I mean, chemistry, you might never use it again, right?
Right.
But reading is something that, even when you are 50 years old or 40 or 60 or whatever it is, you have to read. If you're in business, you got to read, your leases, your letters, and, a bunch of other stuff that's involved. If you are, in medical school, you still got to read. If you're trying to become an engineer, you still got to read. So reading is, and the sooner we develop it, the better it is. Let's talk about your life. So you grew up in Dallas, Texas.
I did.
So tell us, how was life as a child? Did you always knew that you wanted to be an athlete and an NFL player? I mean, what was it?
So here's the thing, man. Like growing up as a kid, I always loved watching sports. I loved everything about sports. I used to collect like football cards and baseball cards. I wanted to be like those guys on TV, but I didn't truly believe that I could be like those guys on TV because if you were on TV, then you were special. And I didn't think I was special or anything. I just thought, I really love watching Walter Payton and Jerry Rice play football. I want to be like them, but did I ever think that I was going to be like them? Like, no, that wasn't a realistic thing to me. I've always been a realist. I've always been somebody that kind of saw things for what they were, even at a young age. Grew up, my parents got divorced at age 4. So it was one of those deals where I be at my dad's house on the weekends and be at my mom's house throughout the week. And so I think reading had to do with that too. Sometimes, to alleviate boredom. Didn't have a lot of money. It wasn't a situation where I can just go do what I wanted to do, or hey, let's go spend money to go here or there. But I could open up a book, and it could take me to wherever I wanted to go. And so, I didn't really realize that I could make it to the NFL until I was a junior, probably like my sophomore going into my junior year in college. It wasn't until then. Like even when I was coming out of high school, when people were looking at me about saying like, you can get a scholarship, you get an offer to go to school, my whole thought process was, all right, cool, I'm gonna get school paid for because I don't have money. My mom doesn't have money to pay for me to go to college. So I'm gonna get this scholarship and play ball and enjoy playing the game I love, but at the same time get a free education, get my degree, and eventually start my business and then go on with my life. Like that was my plan. So when I'm getting recruited by universities, the schools that are just talking to me all about ball, they started losing traction because I'm like, yeah, I mean, ball, I love ball, but it's not like I'm gonna be playing in the NFL or anything like that. That wasn't a realistic thought process for me. Yeah, so when I was in high school, I played tight end in a wishbone offense. So that means that in that offense, the tight end didn't get the ball. All we did was block. I was like a glorified offensive lineman. And so on TV, what you saw is tight ends that caught touchdowns and scored a bunch of points. And so I wasn't doing that in high school. So it wasn't realistic for me to go to the NFL because that's what those guys did. But my whole goal in high school was to win a state championship here in Texas. I went to Lake Highlands High School, which was back then it was a perennial powerhouse. Now it's trying to work its way back, but it was a powerhouse back then. And so that was my goal in life. Like I want to play varsity football for the Lake Highlands Wildcats. That's kind of like the kind of area and culture we developed. I'm sure it's probably the same way like at North Shore here in Houston. I'm pretty sure like kids that are in elementary school.
Why you said North Shore since they won the last 2 championships?
I mean, they've won the last 2, but they've probably been in it and won like the last, 5 out of 7 or something like that. They're a powerhouse. Yeah, I mean, North Shore has been
and
damn good for a long time.
What? And I want to not change the subject, but the power shifted from Katy to North Shore.
Yeah.
And I mean, North Shore, a lot of schools aren't there like a Title I, like the elementary and stuff? Aren't they like a little economically challenged area?
Is what, North Shore?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe so,
versus
but I'm
Katy.
not sure. For sure, I mean, if you're comparing it to Katy, for sure,
Yeah.
Katy's one of the most.
And I mean, growing up,
well-to-do districts in the state.
So, I went to A-Leaf. I mean, and every time we went to, and when I grew up, going to Hastings, every time we went to playoff, man, we got beat by Katy Tigers.
Well, Katy pretty much beats everybody else except North Shore. North Shore is the only team that really beats Katy.
Exactly, and I mean, I think the only year in last 3 years that North Shore didn't win, I think they got beat by Cy-Fair. Cy-Fair ended up winning the state.
Yeah,
and Cy-Fair beat Katy, went and beat North Shore, and that was the thing. But North Shore, I think, is a powerhouse. I think they have a culture right there.
Yeah, I mean, they created a culture. I'm pretty sure there. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty certain this is how it goes. Is that the kids in elementary school, Pop Warner, Little League football, run the same plays from Little League to middle school to high school. The same offense, it's the same defense. It's like a factory. They're farming it. They reload, man.
Yeah.
And so they reload talent each and every year. And so, I mean, it was like that growing up in Dallas and at Lake Highlands High School. We didn't win state, but we were going to the Final Four. Mind you, that's if you look at it like the NCAA tournament, we were going to the Final Four, Elite Eight every year for about 5 or 6.
Now, you played
years.
Basketball too, or just football?
Nah, just football.
Just football.
Yeah, I was never good enough to make the basketball team.
So now you went to University of Memphis.
Yeah,
and you basically said that academics had a lot to do with where you selected the school. What other schools were final? Was there a Final 3, Final 4?
Yeah, there was a Final 3. So I was getting recruited heavily by TCU, Wisconsin, and Memphis. And so TCU was, I would say TCU was a little bit above Memphis as far as standing as a football team. Wisconsin was head and shoulders above it as a football team compared to Memphis. Wisconsin that year that was recruiting me was going to the Rose Bowl. I went on my visit up there and had a really good time. But it was one of those deals where everything was about football, and school was kind of secondary. This is something that means to an end kind of deal. And I didn't really agree with that line of thinking, and my mom definitely didn't agree with that line of thinking. I remember the head coach of Wisconsin coming into my apartment as a outgoing senior and talking to my mom about the school. And let's say if he was there for an hour, he probably spent 55 minutes talking about football and what I could do for the program and what the program could do for me as far as football, and maybe spent 5 minutes talking about getting a business degree and what that can do going forward in your life. And so once that happened, I kind of knew, like, yeah, he lost my mom and he really already lost me, so they really didn't have a chance. So they were very surprised when I chose Memphis over Wisconsin.
So you wanted a business degree when you were in high school?
Yeah.
So did you get it?
Yeah, I got a degree in finance.
In finance. So
yes.
did you, after football, did you ever apply that degree, or did you do anything in business? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I owned a nightclub in Dallas for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
So that was from like 2011 to 2016. I owned a nightclub, Winston Supper Club in Dallas, and so it was one of the top spots in Dallas for a long period of time. And when I stopped doing that, it was to focus on the foundation. And once I focused on the Wade Smith Foundation, it took off. Because there was a period of about 3 years, maybe 4 years, 3.5 years where I was doing both. I had the foundation, I also had the club, and then I also was playing football in the NFL. And there was a lot of stuff going on, and there was things falling through the cracks. And so I was like, I got to focus on a certain thing. Where I retired from football, I still had the club and I still had the foundation, but the foundation wasn't taking off. And so I'm all about creating moments and feelings for people. I mean, like, that's kind of what life is about. You know what I mean? If you can go through life and you can do something to make somebody, you'll create a memory for them to last a lifetime, then you did something right. And so I was doing that with nightclubs, and people will always tell me stories about, man, I remember when and this and that, and man, I used to love that place. But at the end of the day, at the night, I was kind of like thinking to myself, like, what am I really doing to affect young people in a positive way? And I was trying to do it with the foundation, but it wasn't taking off because my time was it's only 24 hours in a day. I wish you could have like 36, you know what I mean? And then you can get some more things done, but it just doesn't work that way. So lease ran out with the venue I was at, and so I could have gone somewhere else and renewed, and I was like, no, I'm gonna put this to the side and focus on the foundation. And so since then, the foundation has taken off.
One more time, go back to the foundation. So what does the foundation do in whole?
Well, I mean,
what is the purpose, and what is the sole purpose of the foundation?
It's to affect children in a positive way when it comes to education and literacy. So we have our youth portion of the foundation, which is our Reading with the Pros program, and that focuses on the elementary school age kids, just building that foundation with reading and literacy. And then also we have our Smitty Scholarship program, where we've given out right at $200,000 in scholarship money for outgoing seniors here in Houston and Dallas. So it takes care of that end of those seniors that are going to school, giving them an opportunity to further their education at universities throughout the country.
And how do you get the funds for the scholarship?
We do different fundraisers. I don't know. I don't think you've ever been to. So we've done.
I know last one. I think Amanda had invited me, but I just couldn't go.
Yeah. So Bulls and Blackjack and Bedtime Stories are two of the big fundraisers that we'll do each year. Mm-hmm. Bedtime Stories is something where we'd get current and former NFL athletes and just celebrities to walk a runway fashion show. Mm-hmm. And we were doing that at a nightclub here in Houston. And so it was like a pool party, but it was like at night, very upscale, classy. So we'd raise money during that. And then we also have Bulls and Blackjack, something we do where it's a Texas Hold'em tournament, but then it's also a casino night. So you have blackjack and blackjack and craps tables and all those various
basically
games.
A black tie affair kind of thing.
It turns into, it's a casino night. It's literally a casino night, but it's like not your run of the mill casino night where, I mean, I see casino nights all the time, and you go in there, it's like, oh, this is cool. Like when you go to our events, it's a production. And so we make sure that when people go to our events, it's kind of using that same mentality of when I own nightclubs, and that merging that, well, I'm putting on a party now, but this party is to raise money for kids.
For the scholarship benefit.
Yeah, and so it's the sole purpose of raising all this money is using that mentality of creating experiences and memorable moments for adults. But at the same time, now at the end of the night, these people didn't just spend thousands of dollars and it just went to somebody's bottom line to profit, by doing a club. The bottom line is now you can see different kids throughout the city of Houston and the state of Texas that are now going to various universities all over the country and bettering themselves, and then coming back home and bettering the place where we live. And so now, when at the end of the day, I can smile because it's a lot that goes into putting this stuff together. You know what I mean? It was a lot to go into doing nightclubs, but it's like, I feel a lot better about what goes on and what you have to do to get to the bottom line of, all right, at the end of the day, all of the stuff that I do, all of the stuff that I put into invest in as far as time and money and effort to make things happen, at the end of the day, I can see kids' smiling faces, and so it makes it all worth it.
So foundation is what you do right now. You also, have a show. Do you have a show on 610 radio? Or?
So I have my own show with myself and Travis Johnson. So that's the Smitty and Trap show that comes on every Wednesday night on Sports Radio 610. Mm-hmm. So that's every week. But then I also do various shows throughout the week and days. So like today, I'm going to be on Clint Sterner's show from 2 to 6 p.m. and I'll do that pretty regularly. And sometimes I do the morning show. So I'm all over the place over there. I'm getting my reps. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. It's something that eventually I would like to do full time. So I'm just kind of building my way to that.
Getting the reps in.
Yeah, getting the reps. Because a year ago at this time, I would come on and do like an hour segment on a show, and that was it.
So now you're doing more like 3 hours, 4 hours.
Well, yeah, like this past 3 days, I drove that show. So the same show that I was on for an hour, a few days ago, for 3 straight days, I drove that show, which means that coming in out of the breaks, making sure we're hitting the topics, all that, it was basically my show for those 3 days. And so this is on the morning, one of the top morning shows in the city of Houston. So in a year's time, a lot of progression has been made, and so I'm looking forward to keeping on doing that.
So when you're on this show, are you only talking about football? Or are you talking about all sports?
We talk about all sports. You talk about just stuff that goes on in the world today. You know what I mean? You try to keep it. I mean, it's a sports show, so I would say 85-90% of it, you're talking about some type of sports, but we also like to keep it light too and talk about various things that go on around the world. So, but yeah, we try to stay away from politics. That's probably the one thing.
One thing you don't want to touch.
Mess with the politics, yeah.
What did you think about Kobe Bryant's passing?
Man, that was tough, and the reason why it was tough is, okay, first of all, he was this generation's Michael Jordan. So I couldn't imagine if I lost Michael Jordan in a helicopter accident, I couldn't imagine how I would handle that. So when Kobe Bryant passed away, for me, it hit me hard because it was more of on that father-daughter tip. I have 4 daughters. My 2 oldest daughters both play club volleyball at a very high level. So you saw Kobe after he retired, just go all in with the same mentality that he had as an athlete, being one of the best to ever do it. He had that same mentality in coaching and helping bring women's sports or youth sports, girls sports to a higher level. And so I could see that, and I had been doing the same thing, of course, not on that same level. But if you listen to my show on the radio, I talk about club volleyball, I talk about all this type of stuff because I have a platform, and it's something that's really, really an awesome thing that goes on in these cities, but people might not know about. So when you have the opportunity to use your platform, you use it to try to push it and grow the game. And so that's what he was doing. He's using his huge platform to grow the game, and he was on the way to take his daughter to go play a game when he passed away. And so that hit me hard. I was actually in the gym at my daughter's volleyball match when I got the news. I'm recording my daughter play. Someone walks up to me and said, "Man, Kobe just died." I'm I'm looking at them like they crazy. What are you talking about, man? Moving around. And it was no, Kobe, he died in a helicopter accident. And then you had all the different reports about all of his kids were on there, and then found out that, Gigi, his daughter, was on there, and then there was 7 other people. I mean, it was all these different reports, but it hit me like a ton of bricks because I totally understand what he was trying to do and at what level he was trying to do it. And if you love sports and you love playing the game, just like I love everything about sports and playing the game, They was just going to play a game, man.
They were just going to play a game,
and they lost their lives in the process.
I'll never forget what I was doing. So I mean, there's a couple of things, there's a couple of events that will happen in your lifetime that means a lot to you.
Yeah.
That you'll never forget where you were at. I mean, 9/11, I'll never forget what I was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Kobe Bryant's passing was probably, when I heard the news, what I was doing, I'll probably never forget. I was working. We were going to a show in Vegas, to a furniture show, and I'm in the Uber ride.
Yeah.
And my brother, who's sitting right next to me, is like, man, Kobe Bryant died. I'm like, what are you talking about? Next thing you know, I got 2 or 3 texts back to back, and I'm like, get the hell out of here! What are you talking about? And it kind of hit me. I grew up, watching, Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. I love Hakeem, because from Houston.
Yeah.
But I never went to a game to go see Michael Jordan or Hakeem. We didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So I went to, when I was going to games, I was watching Kobe Bryant play.
Right.
That's probably one of the first mega star that I saw play.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't like him when he played us,
right.
You can just do nothing but admire him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was one of the greatest players of all times. I mean, you got to put him in the conversation. I mean, when you and a guy like that disappears, or I mean passes away, I mean leaves a big void.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was sudden.
It's
you
sudden.
know what I mean? It was completely unexpected
and young.
Very young.
And I mean, the thing is, I'm 42. And what is he, 40? I think it's 40, 41.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so
years older than me.
So I think that's probably, another thing. Like, oh man, he's the same age as me. So
yeah, it lets you know that your own mortality is such a realistic thing. If something like that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. And so it makes you take a step back, and it makes you think to yourself, you know what I got to do? I have to each and every day make sure I make it count.
Exactly.
You can't go through a day and waste it, because you don't know when it's going to be your last moment here on this earth, and you don't know what type of legacy you're going to leave behind. Like the legacy that Kobe Bryant left behind is tremendous. And so you want to make sure that when you go, that you're going to be missed, because you're going to be missed because of all the things you were doing to help other people. And that's what he was doing. And so if you, I just think that's why the loss is so tremendous, because he was doing so much to grow youth sports, volleyball, basketball. He was doing stuff with USA volleyball, USA basketball for women. He was doing things in the WNBA, trying to help get their pay amounts raised to something more similar to what their counterparts might get. And so he was championing all those causes all at the same time. And so to lose him, that was tough, man.
Yeah, it was. And then also when I found out his daughter wasn't there,
Yeah.
I got daughters too. I'm a father. It just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, that one. I mean, it was sad. But, moving on from that, I mean, that leaves a big void. So I mean, you can't, imagine that. So I'm sure you talk about that on your show. And I'm sure there was a lot of calls about that show.
Yeah, I mean, we did on the Smitty and Trap show. We did basically the whole show just about that. They did on Sports Radio 610, because the day after it happened, I wasn't on myself. But once I got on my Wednesday show, we dedicated a lot of time to it, just talking about the impact that he had on, just the world in general, but just us personally. And the whole thing is at the end of it is like, listen, follow his example, follow his lead, and make sure that going forward, you're continuing to, it's just like Nipsey Hussle, like the marathon continues. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to put in the work each and every day and give back to those that might not otherwise get an opportunity. And that was what Kobe was doing. And so, that's one thing that each individual person can take upon themselves and do. Like, hey, I'm going to make sure that each and every day I'm going to make it count. And if my calling or something that I feel moved to do is to help others, to help kids, to do whatever, I'm going to do those things, and I'm going to do it to my utmost of my abilities.
What do you think about Nipsey Hussle?
He was.
You just quoted him, so
he was another great, man. He was a great that was taken away from us too soon, and that was on some, somebody that was close to him, that was jealous, that took him out. And that happens. It happens way too often. It happens way too often in our community, where you have people that shine a light, and somebody because of jealousy or any other whatever reasons snuff that light out. And so
Yeah.
It's almost like the same old thing, just a different day. But after a while, you get tired of seeing like people like that was doing such positive things in the community. I mean, he was around the way type cat. Like he was not, high in the sky type dude. He was right there on Slauson. He was right there in Crenshaw like all the time and trying to give back and build up the community with business and giving people opportunities. And so anytime you see and you hear about somebody like that getting taken out, it's a frustrating scenario, but it's been done so many times before. But like you said, the marathon continues. Once we lost him, but people still got to pick up that baton, pick up that torch, and keep going.
Keep moving
that's
forward.
the same thing with Kobe.